Well, hello everybody. This is Jon Croft with Cultural Warfare with Jon Croft, and I am Jon Croft. How's everybody doing today?
Hi,
How's
everybody.
Hi. And Rebecca's here. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing great. I'm doing
Good.
really good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, so another week of cultural warfare. What are we talking about tonight? We're talking about the parallel Hollywood. So, and also of course some news, etc. How about you, Rebecca? Have you had any media experiences this week?
Yeah. I got a book for our homeschool. I was reminded of my love of humanities and how I really wanted to bring the arts into my kids' lives. Um, and I found this book on Amazon, 75 masterpieces every Christian should know. And I thought it was just going to be about art, but as I looked into it, it's music and um,
Literature too, right?
oh yes, literature, poetry, and really good stuff. In fact, I can read you a little bit of the table of contents. It's got it's got it's got the Fellowship of the Rings on here. It's got the Chronicles of Narnia, which is pretty cool. It's got a Pilgrim's Progress. It has many hymns on here, like important hymns. It has some classical art pieces that are really beautiful. Um, and it actually has a lot of the backstory behind these masterpieces, as in um, how they were created, how they were inspired, and how they can make us think of God. And it even has, so it's got Paradise Lost in here,
Yeah.
um, a lot of great stuff. It's got the Joshua Tree in here by you too,
Wow.
and and then I was surprised to see as well the Tree of Life by Terrence Malick.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I'm kind of excited about this book. I've just flipped it open randomly and found this page, The Temple, which is a book of poetry by George Herbert, who was like a completely unknown 1600s guy.
Yeah, I don't even know him.
And
The Temple, is that a poem or something?
it's a book of poems. Yeah.
Oh, a book of
Yeah,
like a
there's
collection.
I want to say like 100 and something poems, 150 poems approximately.
Wow.
And and it says that these poems have become a treasure for Christians ever since and are some of the most honest and searching poems ever composed on the life of faith.
George Herbert. Wow.
Guy right here.
So he's from the 1600s.
1600s guy.
I'm guessing he's English.
Yeah.
So it's maybe during the Civil War, English Civil War period,
Yeah, I suppose so.
like at the same period that John Milton was happening, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so let me read a short poem, really short one, okay?
Please do.
This is from his book, The Temple. And this poem is just called Love. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. But quick eyed love, observing me, grew slack. From my first entrance in, drew near to me sweetly, questioning if I lacked anything. A guest I answered, worthy to be here. Love said, you shall be he. I, the unkind, the grateful. Ah, my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love took my hand and smiling did reply, who made the eyes but I? Tr- Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it doth deserve. And know you not, says love, who bore the blame? My dear, then I will serve. You must sit down, says love, and taste my meat. So I did sit and eat. So this poem is God inviting him to sit and eat at the table with him. And
Yeah,
he's saying, no, I'm not worthy.
yeah,
And God is saying, but I'm
it
God
is.
and I am inviting you to sit and eat with me. So
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. I just flipped that open and found that earlier today.
Wow.
Um, but here's the cover.
That's beautiful.
It's a Wonderful Life on there.
Oh, good. Yes. Some good
Um,
stuff.
I'm excited to explore that.
I'm sure some people will say, is this really worthy? Other people will say, of course. And other people will say, what is that? Like that poem I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. That was really good. I bet he was a pilgrim or something.
Yeah, he looks like a pilgrim.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He does. Yeah.
But I mean, if nothing else, like I just think it's worth it to have these little chapters written, at least just exploring why this masterpiece might make one think of God.
Yeah.
Like I never thought, some of the pictures in here, I just never thought like, oh, I didn't know that was a Christian painting. Well, it might not be a
Mhm.
Christian painting, but yet we can explore it in light of God's love and God's nature and who he is and see a deeper meaning there than maybe what was presented to us before.
Well, then what you just presented is a crisis that many artists have and Christians have about the nature of art. You presented the idea that what is a Christian piece of art?
Yeah.
And my contention is that there is no Christian art. All there is Christians who make art, and people and artists who are used of God, despite whether they're Christians or not. So, um, in other words, it's all truth is God's truth. And
Yeah.
if an artist speaks truth, that's God speaking through them, whether they like to think so or not. So you can have great art that's not made by Christians. And the reason it's great is because it's inspired by truth, right? Truth inspires it, beauty inspires it, God's goodness inspires it. And there are natural, beautiful things that God inspires us with, even if we don't accept Christ as our Savior, because there's larger purposes, right? And the larger purpose is to bless others through that art, not the artist necessarily personally. So people, I think, need to remember that artists are tools like anybody else on their daily basis. When you meet anyone, you can bless them that day and smile at them and be kind to them, or you can be mean. And an artist does the same thing through their work. They can make something that's not so good, and they might even be a Christian. So don't think of it like, oh, they're a Christian, therefore they make good art. No, um, that's obviously not true. And you can make great art and not be a Christian. The question is whether you're letting truth speak through you. That is, God speak through you in your art. And some artists just do this better than others. Even Christian artists can be bad at that.
Yeah.
So, and terribly horrible artists in their moral values can speak wonderful truth through their art. So, what values are reflected in that art? That's what's really the thing, isn't it? Only Christians are Christian, but values are everywhere, right? And we can find them everywhere. You can find them in a tree, or you can find them in a poem or a song that was made by a terrible artist that's not even a Christian. And so this is one thing that Christians have to kind of get through, this truth that they need to kind of allow to flow through them, just like God flows through artists.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of these things are unconscious and unknown to us when we make things like art. And and sometimes you just are seeing things in art that you want to see as well. The way that you look at the world affects, or who you are affects the way you look at the world, rather. And so Christians, there's this, right, this saying in scripture, to the pure, all things are pure. And that means a pure person can look at something that's another person would say is terrible, and a pure person would see goodness in that and beauty in that. We have to remember that too, that um, innocent attentions exist quite often when you're making art. And it doesn't mean that the quality in that art is one way or the other. It just means consider that all of these things are separate. The artist might be a Christian, or they might have very innocent intentions, or they might just be really good at mirroring real truths through their art. I do believe God is sovereign, so that means that I don't believe he's sovereign in the way that some people think, which is that man doesn't have free will. I think that he's sovereign in the sense that he acts outside of our will. In other words, he has more power than we do. And he can act on us, right? Like he hardens Pharaoh's heart. But it's the things that we do willingly that affects the end result of our lives, right? The things we do willingly do, right? With considering the nature of all these things, you accept art in whatever way God asks you to accept it. And quite often it's a reflection of our society's bad values. And that's often when you reject art, when an artist is just being a reflection of a society's bad values, right? But if they're reflecting the in general revelation, the nature, or they're reflecting God in some way, truth of God, then that's when you accept that art and enjoy it, right? Something truth is shining through it, something true. Obviously, there are some deplorable values, some deplorable morals that some artists put in their work, and children should not be just viewing whatever art, right? So because they lack the ability to discern what is good and not good yet. So, and they're not so careful either what they let into their thinking. So I think it's really important though to talk about these things. I know I've been a little long-winded, but it's important to talk about these things when you look at masterpieces. The 75 masterpiece book. I just love that because I'm gonna be reading some of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And because there's some of the things, like I said, I was not even aware of at all. But it's really important to learn how to understand why these things are masterpieces and why some other piece of art is not. So that takes a little more study and willingness to kind of learn why that's the case.
Yeah.
So I did an article this week about Narnia, and it's actually a think piece. So let's take a look at Medium Moses. Let's see if I can share Medium Moses. I have it on the white mode right now. I could switch over to black. Boop, dark mode. I really like the dark mode as well. Kind of easier on my eyes. But this is a think piece, meaning if you're not a subscriber to Media Moses, you can't read it. So, will Netflix get the nuance in Lewis's Magician's Nephew? Doubt it. So, sometimes I use some comedy in here to kind of make fun of Netflix and their inability to make good work. I give a few reasons why. Well, first of all, I talk much of the things I'm talking about here is in response to Fantastical Truths podcast number 261, I believe. Why do we love the Magician's Nephew? I like their podcast quite a bit. They're from lorehaven.com. And so they put out a podcast called Fantastical Truth. They talk about Christian literature and fiction on that site. And I really like those guys. Many of them are authors, published authors that run the site, and they seem like pretty smart people. But back to what I was saying about Netflix and Narnia. I give a list of some of the recent scandals that Narnia has been through and why the C.S. Lewis Company from London should not have trusted Narnia or Netflix to handle Narnia very well. It's kind of obvious when you look at these facts that they really mishandled their own IP, their trusted IP, and put it in the hands of the worst people to handle this. Um, The second worst would be Amazon to handle this kind of stuff. I wouldn't trust them with a 10-foot pole either. But but yeah, some of the scandals they go through are here. I just quickly sum them up. I don't really provide links to all these scandals because there's just too many, but you can look them up. Um, and so I even talk about the reason I left Netflix and do not subscribe to them anymore, which is their French underage girl film, The Cuties, that they put on there. That was just disgusting. And there was a big discussion about that maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago. I even watched some of it because of the great controversy with it. And I was like, oh, I don't believe what they're saying, whatever. I watched it. I was like, this is worse than what they're saying. They're being generous. And
Wow.
as a producer myself, I know what casting sessions are like. So what really did it for me was imagining how they casted these underage girls. Just imagining for a split second what these girls would have had to go through to be casted for that movie. It's what you would have to call child exploitation. So, being that it's a French movie, I don't care what some people say, and I don't care that they say underage girls are not underage over there. I think that's disgusting. So, one thing I don't like about the French, and so I'm out, and I'm not going to support Netflix because not only did they have that scandal, they defended the movie after the scandal, and you just can't defend that. So I talk about why the C.S. Lewis company might have, or how they failed by trusting this company with a obviously Christian story. Certain values have to be represented in Narnia, and I think that that was just the beginning of the problems, is choosing Netflix. Then they chose Gerwig, and now they potentially are making Aslan into a woman. Um, and then this article talks um, about how they're probably going to be doing The Magician's Nephew first. And so I talk about here, by the way, this is a cool video about Armenian roots of Narnia. And if you want to learn about the Armenian roots of Narnia, watch that video. It's really interesting. But that's kind of besides the point. It's another of the reasons this is a very Christian story. So then I talk about, well, what is it about the magician's nephew in particular, how they can engage in what Hollywood calls poisoning the well. Actually, Hollywood doesn't call it that. Hollywood does that. People like me call it that because that's what it is. Poisoning the well is when you go to some earlier point in the discussion or some earlier point in the story and you change the framing of that entire discussion afterwards or story afterwards by changing the beginning from what it was intended, or coloring someone's opinion of that other person to some degree. In this case, and you can read this, but in this case, it's to reframe it as a feminist allegory. If you know anything about C.S. Lewis, you know that C.S. Lewis had an interesting relationship with women in his life because both his mother and his wife later on in his life died of cancer. And Diggory, in The Magician's Nephew, his mother is also um, in danger of dying. And I don't want to give any spoilers to the story, but there is a perfectly great excuse for a Hollywood feminist to change Aslan into a woman if they can sell it in that way. And one of the things I say here, for example, is Gerwig forcing Aslan into the mold of a woman allows her to do many compelling things, though, in the mind of a feminist. It allows Lewis, in the form of Diggory, to substitute Aslan for the real women in his life whom he loved, such as his mother and his wife, whom died of cancer in real life, who both died of cancer. This superimposition would, in the mind of a gaggle of Hollywood feminists, provide every excuse to make Aslan into a woman. If the memory of C.S. Lewis's mother, for example, served as the true impetus for imagining Aslan as a woman, then erasing Christ from the story could be called a compassionate act by these same Hollywood virtue signalers. So for them, it's a slam dunk. Um, I give more explanation on this, and that this goes into a literalist versus non-literalist approach, meaning they can call these Christians who listen to Lewis fundamentalists or literalists, right? Oh, he's not really Christ. Oh, he's not really a lion. Christ is not really a lion. This is just a metaphor. And the metaphor that we're using, which we believe Lewis is really driving at here, is that Aslan should represent his mother, and that this means his mother could live forever. Again, I don't want to give a spoiler. I was about to give the spoiler. But if you know about Magician's Nephew and you know, and you have subscribed here, you can read this article and know exactly what I'm talking about. They can have what they might think is a logical reason to actually substitute Meryl Streep as Aslan. All they have to do is kind of imagine the God figure and Christ away. Um, and I assure you they can do that. They can accomplish that feat. So, because that Christ is not the most important thing in their lives, right? Um, so I say it writes itself, folks. Never mind the severity and fierceness of such an untamed beast whom we are to fear, the same as we are to fear the one true God. That part can be left out. So, Lewis would be turning in his grave to hear all these discussions. Uh, and so that's what this article is about. It's a little bit long. It's 8-minute read, but I think you'll enjoy it. And you can also find out what's going on with the development of the story. I put some facts in here about how they're developing the story. They're doing casting sessions right now, etc. So you can take a look at that if you want to. Speaking of which, we are working on Media Moses changes, and some of these things are dealing with um, the monetization of the company and how that's going to work. Some of the projects we're working on include advertising, include subscription models, include merchandise, and future crowd funds. So one of the things that we're working on is a future tour that we plan on going on so that we can do interviews with people and we can meet some great artists around the country. We really want to do that because without doing that, we really can't do an award show. We really need to meet the real community face to face, have great conversations with everybody, to where we have an understanding that this award show is about building a community and about making great work. So raising the bar of our work, and you really can't do that without some kind of competition. In Hollywood, you could say the competition is the box office. But here, the competition is great storytelling. And we would want it no other way. So Hollywood doesn't do that anymore. They care about the pretend virtue signal, which is the box office, and the real virtue signal, which is their ideology. And then um, faith-based media cares about the propaganda and kind of like making a few people cry. And then if they can do that and get a few subscriptions that way, I think they're going to feel pretty good about themselves. But my belief is that Christian media is changing. And some of these up and coming companies are showing us that. So we believe that some up and coming companies like 5 and 2 Studios, um, Kappa Studios, Angel Studios, Lore TV, that a lot of these people, up and coming people, along with some filmmakers who do crowd funds around the country, we believe that there's going to be enough content. I hate to call it content. We're just so used to using that word now, but enough art, you know, to make an award show in within a few years. But the idea has to be put out there, right? The idea has to be put out there in the mind of the public that this is an important project we have going on, and we intend to accomplish something great. Now, the difference between this project and the Hollywood awards shows, such as the Oscars and Emmys and things like this, Golden Globes, is that they just do a general award based on type of product, you know, or genre, and then the discipline within that genre, such as visual effects or acting or what have you. And we don't want to do that here. What we want to do is we do want to um, show awards for certain achievements, such as certain technicians, but mostly what we want to do is award for storytelling. And the way to achieve that, in my view, is to have an award show about a particular social issue, right? So that means your the award this year goes to the film that can more astutely, with greater craftsmanship, with greater grasp on storytelling, illuminate the real heart of an issue, some social issue, and cause people to care, to think deeply about that social issue. And so, every year when we do the award show, then a social issue will be curated for that year. And then we'll put out the social issue, that the winning social issue that year. And then all these artists will work to write the best screenplay or the best short film or do the best act, like the best scene about that social issue. And obviously, the most effective in championing or handling that social issue is the winner of that award. And so what this does is it changes the way we think about art. It's no longer about just the craft, no longer about just maybe the box office or what we think is a good genre film, or really visual effects that really make that's cutting edge or whatever. It's not about that. It's about what tells the story successfully, right? And so as Christian artists, we can successfully look at the heart of an art form with the aid of the Holy Spirit and say, this is what this art form was created to do, created to accomplish, right? And so I believe that art was created to help us to think about the world more accurately, to see the beauty, to see the goodness, to see the truth in the world more accurately. Sometimes that means revealing ugly things. Sometimes because you see beauty often through seeing ugliness. You see the contrast, right? You see the contrast between light and darkness, right? And framing and composition of a shot is comfortable or uncomfortable and tells a story, right? And so all of these artistic crafts go into telling the story. So that's kind of what we want to do is we want to reintroduce to the public the idea that Christians and conservatives actually get the point, the power behind media. And we can keep the main thing the main thing. It's not money, it's not some kind of social virtue, or some ideology or some politics. It's the story. It's the truth of the story, right? And it's the telling of the story that reveals these truths. So, kind of refining, curating, beautifying the community, right? That's kind of the point of these award shows. It's not just having a red carpet doing interviews and becoming famous or whatever. That is not what this is about. So I think that excellence plays a part, and I think that teaching people kind of a better way of storytelling or a different way, a unique, innovative way of doing storytelling is an important skill to get across. So I think innovation should be a factor here, a new way to tell stories. If it's effective, I think we should highlight that. So that's one of the things the Media Moses Awards is going to be doing is trying to really get this across that a better award show can take place. It should be a year of gathering talent, then the first award show, which will not include long form content. It'll just include short form content. And then it'll be about this social issue, which you'll have a year to prepare for. So you could create almost anything in a year. It'll give you enough time to do your best work in that way, because that's the point, right? It's not about being as quick as you can, right, to make content in time for the award show. No, you have a year to make this award or make this product, and then the show will be broadcast on YouTube and in person as well. And then the people that are in person will see it on that night. It'll be broadcast on YouTube for free later, hopefully within only a day or two. And then we'll just keep trying to do it every year, you know? So if we can do that, I think that would be incredible. But again, this is uh the award show and the magazine for Media Moses is like it could take a few years for us to get there. And in the meantime, we're going to be doing other crowd funds, potentially for a book I'm working on. We're also working on a documentary series called Cultural Exodus. So that's that's one of the things we've been talking about. Let's see, I feel like I left something out, honey. Do you remember our conversation on this?
We talked about advertising.
Yeah.
Um, we
Yeah, for
talked,
monetization, that's probably going to be one of the biggest things that we're going to need to kind of lean into is advertising. Hopefully that can help make revenue for the company better than some other things would. But we have, for example, we have some merchandise. We're hoping to provide some merchandise to the public, but we're also working on crowd funds for a book. And so there's a lot of different ideas we have for that. One of them is Media Moses Weekly. And so that would come out once a week, which would be Fridays. And it would get you to look at our Media Moses Weekly article and then our live stream, which would be happening Friday nights, just like how tonight's happening, except this is not really live. So there's different things we might have planned. We're gonna also work on doing ad reads in the future and stuff like that. What else did we talk about? Do you remember?
well, I'm personally excited about the possibility of a book because I think it could be very inspirational and very encouraging to a lot of people. Um,
That's sweet of you.
So that's something I'm excited about. I love that you got subscriptions on the page now. If people are wanting to see more content that is produced, more conservative mindset, um, for this similar reasons that you want to see this content produced, then they can support what you're doing, which would be amazing because um, it just feels good when you like something that somebody's putting out there and you like it enough um, to subscribe. Like
Yeah.
that's like there's a few people like I know like the internet is kind of strange right now where
Mm-hmm.
there's so many people with something that they're selling, but
Mm-hmm.
it's actually really amazing because you, in a sense, you really get to pick what you're excited about and who's presenting it. You know,
Yeah.
like there's so many people with e-courses right now.
Right.
But that's amazing because if you like that person and their style, you're more likely to listen to them. And
Yeah.
if you're excited about what they're teaching, you're just going to go ahead and sign up for their class and you're
Hmm.
going to get something out of it because it's where your passion is.
Yeah.
Um, and when people are putting out like YouTube videos that don't have any ads on them or anything like that, they're just producing them because of a subject that they're passionate about, and you're
Hmm.
watching it because it's a subject that you're passionate about. Then it feels good to be like, yeah, I can do $5 a month for that topic, for that passion of mine,
Hmm.
and ensure that this person continues to make videos,
Yeah.
or at least just gives them give them a small sense of validation of like, hey, I like what you're doing enough to buy you a coffee once a month.
Hmm. That's
So
very sweet of you, honey. I mean, and I think too, like you feel this way, right? Because you know me and you know a lot of the stuff I have planned. You hear how I talk about things like Media Moses and Cultural Exodus and my film ideas from Trithia Film. And so you kind of have an inside track, obviously, of what kind of content, what kind of stuff I'm putting in that book, right? And so you're seeing kind of like the overarching plan that this book kind of is speaking to. And a lot of people just aren't seeing that. So I think that you're onto something. I really appreciate you saying that today because I was like, sometimes I almost forget about the book. I'm like, I don't know if this is really important, that important. And so I've gathered all this information and it's like, what am I even going to do with it? Right? It's like I know all this stuff, but why do I know all this stuff? And so
yeah,
it's like I think that you're onto something that and I myself like I'm sometimes don't even know like why I'm even doing this. And so these someone like you to tell me, "Hey, you're not crazy. These are useful things." And someone paying you $5 a month or whatever is actually useful because they're getting value out of it, right? So,
yeah,
and sometimes I just have this sort of disbelief, right? Like I'm just like, oh, come on. And I don't even necessarily believe in myself sometimes. I think a lot of people suffer with that, right? Whether it's like imposter syndrome, like who am I to do this great thing? Or it's like it's kind of like you said that poem about communion or Christ offering, right, himself as food or having a meal with the Lord. And he's like, I'm not worthy of this. And
yeah,
he's like, who are you to say no to my offer? I mean,
yeah,
and so like we don't know our own like the value of all these things, even. We don't even know our own value half the time,
Yeah.
you know? And so how can we refuse the gift? I mean, if he's blessing um us through someone else, or we're getting blessed through someone else, who are we to say, oh, I shouldn't be doing that, or oh, they shouldn't be doing that, you know? Um, I've seen people react to artists in a way that's like um upsetting because they almost feel jealous, like, oh, I should be able to be doing this, but they're doing it. And now I don't like this person. And so our jealousy or our annoyance can color our opinion of other people in a really kind of unfair way, right? And so who are we to say no to this gift that God is giving all of us? God gives all of us some kind of gift, and who knows what that purpose is. So all we can do is do our best to be faithful to those things, like the story of the talents, right? So we just use that, we just invest and use the talents. We don't get to decide how many we get. So it's not, hey, it's not my fault. And whether this could be my only talent. So it's like, whether it's my only talent or this is just one of many talents, who am I to not use it? Right. So I think that's really the point is I need to be faithful to use it. And so thank you for giving me that encouragement. I really appreciate that.
You're
So
welcome.
in because this book is um, the Moses we need is essentially about a metaphorical exodus from Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so it's about reforming the culture, and it's about no longer relying on Hollywood for our culture. And but it doesn't just present that, right, and then say, bye, have a good journey, guys. Have fun storming the castle. No, it provides you with tools to actually do that, right? And I want to do that too, just like how the Bible kind of does that in Exodus, right? And Deuteronomy and Leviticus. All these answers for how to create another culture are already there. But what I want to do is kind of make that clear to the modern person, how and why these answers are already here. We just need to kind of avail ourselves of the truth of this. And so this kind of goes into our main topic, which is parallel Hollywood. And so why do I call that parallel? What is parallel Hollywood? What does that mean? If you're aware of the Czechoslovakian or Eastern European resistance against communism, they have this concept called the parallel polis. The parallel polis is essentially a parallel economy that's running alongside the communist economy, which isn't much of an economy anyway. It's all forced and governed with price controls through communist government. So um, the parallel polis then becomes a small economy that's a face-to-face economy between you and others that share your own convictions and they're part of your community. And so that's called a parallel polis. And this concept was dealt with by Alexander Solzhenitsyn as well as some other Eastern European thinkers. And they talked about why, instead of cooperating with and doing business with the culture you've been presented with, and it's easy for you to use right in front of you, instead you do the hard thing and you say, I will not live by lies, right? And I won't support lies and I won't do business and prop up the marketplace of people who are trying to destroy me and my own culture. Why would I do that? So you're a little bit going under the radar, but what you're doing is simply deciding not to comply with the culture that's being presented to you, to just say yes to. Okay, I will just submit to this terrible, poisonous system, right? Whether it's poisonous food or a poisonous culture or poisonous news or poisonous politics, toxic nonsense, just say, I will not participate in this community or this culture, which is not even a community, right? Because it's making it to where I don't even have a choice to do things. That's not a community because you're not even considered an individual at that point. So instead, what you do is you do business with and you have community with those whom you share values with, right? And that's why Media Moses exists. Media Moses, if you go to MediaMoses.com, you will notice we barely ever talk about things going on in Hollywood. One of the only reasons we're talking about Narnia is because of this issue with it being feminized. And we hope to have some impact in preventing that happening. But generally, what are we talking about? We're talking about our own community. We're not talking about Hollywood films. We're not talking about what you see generally from LA and New York and the publishers and the music labels and the Hollywood studios, all of that. That is just a waste of your time. So a parallel Hollywood is another film industry that runs alongside Hollywood, but does not intersect with it, right? So we're running alongside Hollywood, but we don't intersect. And that's for us to not intersect with, right? If you're in the film business, you're still going to have to intersect with the larger film business in some way or another. Hopefully, you can keep from doing that as much as possible because you don't want that Hollywood like money to touch you because it's not good for you. So instead, what you want to do is keep it within that community, right? And try to do as much as you can to promote these other art, this other business, and these other works of art. And one thing you'll start noticing as you do that, your own standards for creating work will change because you'll start noticing that you no longer judge your work based on what other people say is important. You start judging your work based on what you or what God says is better work. And that's so much more valuable than any kind of benefit you might get from working with Hollywood. Because what it does is it improves your craft so much more. This allows you to engage in innovation like you've never seen before because you're no longer comparing yourself to others in a way that's unhelpful and unprofitable for you. So, there's many philosophies behind this. One of these things is that when you continue to engage with the enemy, you continue to become kind of toxified and negative. You continue to talk in a very negative way about what they're doing and kind of dumping on other people, continually dumping on what Hollywood's doing. That might be fun for a few minutes to be like, oh, they're so terrible. Sure, but now you've learned that you continually focus on negative things instead of focusing on positive things and lifting up some artist that you want to succeed, which why would you want any Hollywood artist to succeed? They continue to prop up their own system. And if a Hollywood film does well, they will find all kinds of reasons that are the wrong reasons, learn some terrible lesson from that film succeeding. Right? Like there's this film called Sinners. It's not a Christian film or anything. It's about vampires and stuff, but there are Christian themes in it. And I've noticed that Christians will pick out the Christian themes when they review that movie, and people who are not Christians pick out non-Christian themes and use those non-Christian themes to uh, ignore or minimize Christianity, and then also learn the wrong lessons. about the movie's success. Oh, we need more vampire movies, or oh, we need more really raw, like bloody films, or oh, we need more indie artists to make more money because then they can continue to prop up the Hollywood system. These are all the wrong lessons to learn, right? And but here's the real problem is that just the fact that we're talking about that movie is creating a bigger problem. It's continually propping up Hollywood. That's the bigger problem. When instead, what you could be doing is spending hours talking about good artists who are trying to do good work, as in work with values, right? And trying to benefit your own parallel Hollywood. So why would you waste time and energy? See, the reason people do this is because they think, well, everyone else is doing it. Didn't you learn when you were like 14 that that is not a value system? You were in school and people told you you shouldn't think that way. Why do you think they told you that? Right? Because that's not any kind of moral value. That doesn't indicate some kind of value just because other people are talking about it. So all this does is it provides more money to go to Hollywood and the Hollywood system, or some filmmaker who does not care about moral values. Why would I want to do that? And why would I want this like film to, yeah, sure, I like artists, I like great art, sure. But you know what I'd rather have? Great artists that also are making morally beautifying and relevant art to society. I'd rather see that. And so even if the film I'm talking about is a fraction of the quality of the Sinners movie, I would rather prop this film up. Why? Because I know how films are made. I know how filmmakers are made. They're not made with one or two movies. Their first movies are going to stink. And that is true for even some of the best filmmakers. But am I going to invest in someone who's just another Hollywood filmmaker? Or am I going to invest in a new kind of filmmaker to come in from the outside and become part of this parallel Hollywood that does not benefit Hollywood whatsoever? That would be great. That's how you put one more nail in the coffin of Hollywood. That's how you make Hollywood irrelevant. Irrelevancy is far more dangerous than making fun of Hollywood. It's far more effective. If Hollywood doesn't even exist to you, I have just won. You're not living in my head rent free, right? And I'm not comparing myself to you and your work. It's like you didn't exist anymore. Even if all the films I support are like terrible films, if I don't even talk about your work or care about your work or think about your work, it's like you're not even existing. And sure, I end up with terrible sense of taste because I only watch films that are not that great. But guess what? The whole idea of the faith-based film is going the way of the buffalo now. Now we're getting far better films in the faith-based and conservative industry. If there is an industry, yes, there is. That's what we're talking about, the parallel Hollywood. And so you have to kind of like, yeah, sure, it's a small thing. But why do you think it's so small? Because we need more people to care about it. And if we had more people caring about it and talking about it, it would become bigger. So this is like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you believe in it, the more it comes true. And so you just can either continue to support and believe in this thing you want to happen, or you just pretend it doesn't exist. Well, that should be happening to Hollywood, guys. We should be pretending that they don't exist. That's what we should be doing. And so Media Moses is part of this parallel Hollywood. That is our um, value system speaking fully. We don't really care about Hollywood. That's the truth. We kind of wish that that industry would go away so that the industries that we care about can continue to thrive. And that means people like Daily Wire. That means people like Lore TV. That means people like Angel Studios. That means people like 5 and 2 Studios. That means people like Zachary Levi's Wildwood Studios. Many other people, right, that are starting to grow in that community. Kappa Studios. Um, there's more. There's more, and they're growing. So, I still hold on to the hope also that Daily Wire is going to be starting another film division, and kind of like Bentkey, except for um, regular viewers, right? Not just for kids. So I'm holding out hope for that as well. If you've seen Pendragon Cycle behind the scenes, this stuff is Hollywood quality stuff. So, when hoping and praying for that, yeah, it sounds kind of silly and whimsical, but the truth is they are getting Hollywood level stuff. And you can kind of pretend that doesn't exist, but I'd rather pretend that Hollywood and their horrible value system can go away. That's what I'd rather. So you do that um, by not participating in that economy, in that marketplace. And so we hope to lead the way into this new marketplace. And if people will follow us, and they will, then we'll be able to kind of form another dialogue about entertainment, modern entertainment, and what it's really supposed to mean. It's not supposed to be just about fun and good times and entertainment, right? It's supposed to be about storytelling, the power of storytelling to encapsulate values and culture, affect the culture for good. So we really care about that. And, we'd rather build up friends rather than make enemies by talking bad about other people. That's what we'd rather do. So if you'd also rather build up your friends rather than build up your enemies and make more enemies, then come and have conversations with us on our platform, MediaMoses.com. Have conversations with us on our social media. We have X, we have it on X, and we're growing on other platforms as well. We hope to do a lot more on Substack coming up. I have a few projects myself, and a few of them are on Substack. My film company is called Trithia Film. For example, I have a local networking group called Creator Coffee Bar, where I serve great coffee and we talk about making great film. And I have MediaMoses.substack.com on Substack as well. So, but that's going to be growing soon, hopefully. And we will be talking more about how to make Media Moses a great platform that talks about great art, talks about the nature of great art. And you were talking about the 75 masterpieces. That kind of stuff can happen more and more and more as we discuss it more and more. And as we ask God to help our communities to make more great art that can affect the culture, right? Um, the culture can be affected and changed. A great theologian, Francis Schaeffer, talks about this a lot. And so we recommend people talk or people read his work as well about this, um, about our engagement with culture and why that's so important. That's our future is working towards a better Hollywood, um, a different Hollywood, one that does not benefit that terrible system, but builds a new one that can surpass it, right? So that's kind of what we're interested in. We could start at
And
least forming community, you know.
yeah, and speaking of community, if you are a viewer of this channel or if you're a subscriber and you can think of a good social media platform that would benefit from the Media Moses content, can you put it in the comments below? Because we're looking into Getter and what was the other one called?
Truth Social is Trump's platform.
Truth Social.
Um, yeah, if you're on there and you see a lot of conservative or Christian content, maybe we'll head over there.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like what is going on Substack. There's a lot of
Yeah.
support there, but um it's not exactly like
It's not particularly conservative necessarily or Christian, although there seems to be a good amount of Christians I've seen on there.
yeah, but because it's more of a blogging site, it might not be exactly what you have in mind, but any kind of I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
there's Discord and if you guys know of anything like that, um, that would be a good place to wiggle in for Media Moses. Let us know.
that's a great idea. I like that. Wiggle in there, guys. Give us your opinions and ideas on what kind of social media platform you guys talk at, hang
Yes,
out at, and if you see any Christian or conservative content in these other platforms, let us know. So we're trying to, I guess we're thinking of the best ways to interact with the community, right?
that that's much better than what I said. Wiggling in. I don't know where that came from.
I know, I think that's great. Just wiggle in there, guys. Just wiggle in there. It's cute. As we're gonna wiggle out of here, and we hope you guys have a great weekend. Where can people find you, Rebecca?
On Substack, Rebecca Croft on Substack. And
Yep.
where can people find you, Mr. Jon Croft?
And I'm on Substack as well. I'm also on YouTube at um, Cultural Warfare with Jon Croft, and I'm on X at John Edward Croft and Media Moses, the Media Moses um,
Yeah,
X. So I am on X right now, but plan to be on different platforms. So we'll see. All right, guys, wiggle on in there and have a great weekend and stand up for the culture. I will see you guys next week.
bye.